Hey, we should be live. We're back. We're working on Omo, Queen of Vesuva. Here she is, in case you haven't seen her yet. And we finished on Odyssey last time, so that brings us to Onslaught, which is another very heavy creature type matters set. But it is one of the older ones, so some of the creatures are very good, and some of the payoffs are very good, and some of them are very janky, weird, or just outright bad. So we'll have to see if we can find the ones we need. I don't think we have quite enough lords to justify artificial evolution, although it is potentially very powerful against certain strategies. Like, if we changed our Lord of the Unseen to protect humans instead of illusions, we wouldn't need a second copy of him. He would start giving himself hexproof. Changing Synapse Sliver, or not Synapse Sliver, the one that stops creatures from blocking my slivers with non-slivers. If I change that to, a less prominent creature type, let's go with Aurochs, because we were looking at Ice Age and Cold Snap, and they have all these Aurochs that weren't good enough. All of a sudden, all of our creatures can't be blocked at all, because nobody has this dumb creature type unless they actually have a changeling somewhere. So those are possibilities. That being said, I don't think it's worth an actual card slot in our deck, so we don't need Ascending Aven, Fate Shaper, no. Biorhythm. Tap 2 untapped elves to add 1 mana of any color. That one's a bit easier for us to use and abuse than the Heritage Druid was. It's still not great for us, but it does do a little bit more. Like, having 4 creatures in play and having the other 3 have the counters on them is way easier to do than trying to get to like 6+ in order to use some of the other abilities. Yeah, Bloodline Shaman only works if we know what the top card of our deck is, because our creature types are technically all over the place. Can't run Bloodstain Mire, or we can, we don't need Bloodstain Mire. We need the ones that get blue or green out of our deck. Callous Oppressor, no. Yeah, that one does nothing against us. All of our creatures are all of the types, all of the time. We just have to choose, like, Shapeshifter so they can't grab Omo when she comes down before she's got her counter on her. Or something. Should be good to go. Alright, it's a little hard because when the creature comes down, it will be the wrong type, and we might not be able to get the counter onto it fast enough, but for the most part, we're pretty well protected against a card like that. Don't need Chain of Acid, Chain of Vapor, Choking Tethers, Path Mage, either of the Crowns. Cryptic Gateway. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. They put a creature card from your hand that shares a creature type with each creature tapped this way onto the battlefield. So, maybe the Cryptic Gateway. That one certainly has a lot of potential, especially, like I've been saying, I think we do 2 builds at this point, and one of them is the Eldrazi ramp build, and being able to slam an Eldrazi because we got to 5 mana instead of having to wait until we get to like 8 or 9 mana and having other stuff going on. It's not casting them, so we don't get the thing, but any of the ways we have to cheat them into play super early is usually good enough with a lot of their stats and their attack triggers in some cases. So I'm at least interested in cards that will let us cheat them out even faster. While still holding out that we would just be able to cast them down the line and actually get the cast trigger and everything. Don't need Disruptive Pit Mage, Dispersing Orb, Rider's Reprint, Fish Guidance. Whenever Enchanted Land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green for each elf on the battlefield. Yeah, I feel like consistently we'll be able to get like 3 mana out of this thing, like an extra 3 mana, which is fine, especially if I run a bunch of the ways to untap lands. Making a land tap for 3 extra mana is certainly not nothing. I just don't know that I would have room in the deck for an aura for my land, is the thing. Target elf gains Forest Walk, not good enough. Put a 1/1 counter on Vanguard, no. Cast an enchantment spell, draw a card, probably not. Gets +2/+2 and trample, no. Our Flooded Strand. Future Sight is fine, but we have a bunch of other cards that are letting us play things off the top that are cheaper, and they mostly let us play creatures and lands, which are the 2 things we most care about. So while Future Sight is very, like, way more powerful, it's also a much higher casting cost and a more complicated casting cost in a deck that's going to have a lot of colorless sources. Would give my creature +2/+2 and Shroud is fine, not amazing. I can't run the Burrows. Gigapede. Graxaplon. Graxaplon. Think so. Histrodon. No. Don't need the Image Crafter or any of the other things that change creature types, I don't think. We've already got enough of that going on with our commander. Rex's number of wizards on the battlefield, put them back in any order. So we need 4 wizards before this is anything other than Sensei's Divining Top, but not repeatable. So I don't think so. Do not need Kamal or his summons. Need any of these large angry beasts. Is a basic land on Krosan Tusker. I thought so, but again, I need to double check because every once in a while I'm going to come across one that I don't remember can get non-basic lands because it's been too long since I've used them in something. Metal, Mistform Dreamer, Mistform Mask, or the thing I used it in I normally don't care. Like, if I can get non-basic lands in, what's his name, Yarok, I usually don't super care that I'm getting the non-basics most of the time. Enough of his cards have the basic land subtypes I need, and there's no, like, super fancy land that's helping me that I need to go get, you know. It's not like he has or needs, you know. I'm trying to think of any of them that would be super helpful for Yarok specifically, and yeah, he does not need any non-basic lands that aren't just dual lands to fix his mana base. So, most of the time he can afford to just get basics. Like, I'm not running Reliquary Tower or Strip Mine or Nykthos or Cradle or any of those. So, there's all the Mistform creatures that can change creature types around. Mythic Proportions, Nameless One, Overwhelming Instinct. Our Polluted Delta. not polluted delts. Polluted delta. Wizards you control gain tap counter target spell. Don't think so. It's basically just a 4-mana counter spell that requires me to tap one of my creatures. The only upside to it is that if the opponent can't counter the trance itself, then we'll be good, but like if they can somehow counter the other thing or start redeploying their spells because they don't care that the first one got countered, it helps to stop them from comboing off that turn, but probably not worth it. Ravenous Baloth, Riptide Biologist, Riptide Chronologist. No. Does combat damage to a player may sacrifice if you do gain control of target creature that player controls? No. Riptide Laboratory. Do I need this at all? It taps for colorless, so it's yet another colorless land, and ultimately I don't think that's helping me. So, no. So, Shapeshifter is really interesting when I have a lot of cards that care about creature types, but they don't overlap. Because I used to run this in Momar way back in the day when I had a Momar deck, and the upside to him is that if your only snake is Mystic Snake, and your only Eldrazi is Ulamog, and your only, you keep going in that fashion, it's like, you can sacrifice this thing and pay the 4 mana and tutor the creature you need with the Cool Comes into Play ability or the Giant Body, and always hit. And then the rest gets shuffled back into your library. So you will always find the one card you need. The downside is, it did make it so I couldn't run Coiling Oracle and Mystic Snake at the same time if I wanted to guarantee Mystic Snake, but still a very powerful card. So, very interesting that we can use it to tutor for things, but I think we have enough creature overlap on the big things that this might not be the best. Rummaging Wizard, no. Run Wild. Sage Aven. No. Seize Claim. Can't run Seaside Haven. Serpentine Basilisk, no. Sylvos, no. Uma. Spy Network. Stag Beetle, no. Standardize. Choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have Shroud. Tap 5 untap wizards to gestures cap somebody for 5 cards. Don't need the symbiotic creatures. Taunting Elf, Tempting Worm, Towering Baloth, no. Trade Secrets is banned. It's a 6-mana 4/4. Oh, I can't run it because it has black regenerated as long as I control a zombie. So never mind. Would it have been worth it? It's a 6-mana 4/4 that would have Trample, Haste, First Strike, Flying, and some amount of colorless mana to regenerate it? No. I think so. I don't need Tribal Unity. Trickery Charm. Gains Flying. Becomes the creature type of my choice until end of turn. Top 4 cards, put them back in any order. No. I don't need Vitality Charm. 5 untapped elves. Create a 7/7 green elemental creature token. No. There's the Wall of Mulch, which does let me sacrifice my creatures to draw cards for green mana, which is not a terrible thing to have access to. So, I think I'm down for a Wall of Mulch. Screen for a 0/4. Don't need Weird Harvest, Well-Wisher, Wheel and Deal. Windswept Heath, yes. Wooded Foothills, yes. Wirewood Herald, no. Wirewood Lodge, probably not. Savage doesn't work. Words of Wilding and Words of Wind. Nope. Alright. So we got a couple cards out of Onslaught besides our thing. Our fetch lands. Alright, so Onslaught brings us to Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which all of our creatures will be outlaws at least, so there's a good enough payoff for that in our 2 colors. I do not need the Alchemist, Ankle Biter, Archmage's Newt, no. Arid Archway. Enters the battlefield tapped, bounce a land. If the land was a desert, I get to surveil one. So I would have to bounce one of the lands that I put a counter on, because I don't think I'm running any other deserts. And I don't think there are any other desert payoffs I'm really looking for, unless I'm forgetting some of the ones from the Naya Desert deck from the Commander set for this thing. Don't need Bandit's Hall. Despawned Outcaster. No. Create Bow. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then you can put a land. I mean, she's fine. You know, we can play her, attack with another creature, and draw a card, and we have a big body, but... do we need Bristly Bill at all with his landfall? Probably not. I am planning to ramp a bunch with getting lands out of our deck to begin with. So, a creature that cares about landfall is fine, but it's not essential, and it's not really doing anything we super care about, other than it's a good mana sink later on. Don't need Cactarantula, Colossal Rattleworm. Although it will be a 4-mana 6/5 flash almost all of the time. And Trample. Search my library for a basic land or desert card. Yeah, unfortunately the cards in my deck are not deserts, so being able to grab the desert is not super helpful. Deep Muck Desperado, Fool's Falls, Doc Arlock, no. Yeah, they're not outlaws in my hand or when I'm casting them. Same problem I have with all the other cards that have similar wordings. Duelist of the Mind, Emergent Haunting, Failed Fording, Old Fibblethip, Fleeting Reflection, no. Mando, Lookout. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than your first spell that turn, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So the only way I can get counters onto my other creatures is to turn them into zombies or have them already be zombies. and then cast my second spell and have all my creatures get the counter? I don't think so. I think that's too many hoops to jump through to get some extra 1/1 counters on my guys. I would be better off with something like Raucous Entertainer at that point. Gold Rush, Gold Vein, Rapid Stable Master. Draw a card, then discard a card. Exile a card with mana value 3 or less. Whenever I cast a spell, copy it. I may choose new targets for the copy. I don't need Loan Shark, Lush Oasis. Make Your Own Luck is super tempting with all the insanely high casting cost stuff I want to run in the one version of the deck. Like, casting Make Your Own Luck and plotting any Eldrazi Titan seems pretty good. That might actually be worth considering. Oh wait, we're still under Onslaught, so Outlaws. Make Your Own Luck. It's 3 green, blue for a sorcery. It's a sorcery, right? It's not an instant. I don't think it's an instant. Didn't think so. I did not remember ever casting it on my opponent's turn, so I could untap and immediately cast the spell, so I kind of figured. Raj Mesa for anything. Metamorphic Blast. Global Homestead. Brigand. Can have him become a copy of up to 1 target creature until end of turn, except he has hexproof. Yeah, I don't think I need Oko. I don't need Ornery Tumblewag. I'll cast her Greenblade. He's not terrible because I will have lots of deserts in play when Omo is doing her thing. So he's a decent sized body that lets me fetch a land in my hand, but ultimately I think we can do better. Plan the Heist, Railway Brawler. One of the most win more cards ever when I'm planning on playing Eldrazi Titans. I'm sorry, I need my Ulamog to be at least 20 power. Otherwise, what am I even doing with him? Attacking for 10? Maybe 11? Nah. Nah, those numbers are for chumps. I need my 20 plus power Ulamog. Yeah, I don't think I really need Smuggler's Surprise. It's not the worst for cheating out creatures, but I have better ways to do that. And I don't think I even bothered to put Tooth and Nail on the list, and I would run Tooth and Nail first, honestly, for a similar effect. Burrow Fiend, don't think I need Key to the Vault. I mean, it is really potent, but that's 2 mana to play it, 3 mana to equip. My creature has to get through, and then I might be able to cast a free Eldrazi. Don't think so. Visage Bandit, Voracious, Trash the Town. I didn't miss anything, right? 3 steps ahead. Ain't big enough. Nope, doesn't look like it. Alright, back we go. And expansion, we go Outlaws. So this is the big score, right? The colon. So this is Outlaws Alchemy, this is Commander. Where's the big score its own thing? was the big score its own thing. So anyway, this should be... The problem is that either this is alchemy and this is breaking news. Okay, that's the commander set. We found the commander set. Good news, everybody. I found the commander set. Let's add this in. You may cast target instant sorcery from opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell will be put into their graveyard, exile instead, and then you gain Cipher onto a creature. Tap, add blue. When you spend this mana to cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less, you may exile that spell instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard as it resolves. 2 blue, 3, and tap. You may cast any number of spells from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost to activate only as a sorcery. Draw a card, then draw a card for each other instant sorcery spell you've cast this turn. Has plot for 4. Flash, flying, enters the battlefield, exile target spell and opponent controls. When it attacks, if a card is exiled with it, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Flying, instant sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. Sacrifice it. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. You may choose new targets for the copies. Lands you control and land cards you own that aren't on the battlefield are deserts. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap, mill 2 cards. You gain 1 life for each land milled this way. The problem is there's even fewer cards that search deserts than there are that search basics. So, while this card would theoretically give me another thing to go along with the 1 creature that makes all lands you own basics for the purposes of card effects, I don't think Dune Chanter is where I want to be at. 1 less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. Vigilance for each trample. Enters the battlefield. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and trample. Nope. Enters the battlefield. Exile target permanent card from your graveyard. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 1 less. Reach, Death Touch. Enters the battlefield, search your library under a graveyard for a card named Command Tower, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Create that many 4/2 green plant warrior creature tokens with reach. Tap, add 1 of any color. 1 tap, put a bounty counter on a target creature. Whenever a creature with a bounty counter on it dies, each of its controller's opponents draws a card and gains 2 life. Deals damage to a player. Look at the top card of their library, then exile it face down. For as long as it remains exiled, you may play it. And may have any type may be spent to cast the spell. You put an instant or sorcery card milled this way into your hand. Excuse me. Cactus Preserve enters the battlefield, tap, add 1 mana of any color. The land you control could produce. 3 until end of turn becomes an XX green plant creature token with reach, where X is the greatest mana value. Among your commanders, it's still a land. So 3 mana becomes a 3/3. And then we're into reprints. Okay. I don't need Thunder Junction. There was actually a, maybe there wasn't. Maybe Breaking News is the other one. Was there not an Alchemy? Yeah, there definitely was an Alchemy, because they had, Grenzo and whatnot. Ancient Cornucopia. No. Enters the battlefield, create 2 food tokens. If you do mill 3 cards, you may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Sack Esoteric Duplicator, another artifact, pay 2. Make a token copy of it at end of turn. Don't need Fomori Vault. We're not artifact centric enough. Lost Jite. Tiny bit tempting for the untap a land effect on it, but it still requires my creature get into combat at least and deal combat damage. So not necessarily get through and hit the opponent, which is a lot better, but still not quite good enough. So I can filter, tap it to get a blue and a green most of the time. I don't think so. Vaultborn Tyrant, another creature with power 4 greater, enters the battlefield, gain 3 life, draw a card. When it dies, if it's not a token, create a token that's a copy of it. If I would create one or more artifact tokens, instead I create those tokens plus a map. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact token you control. So, yeah, I don't think any of the big score cards are actually what I need. Alright, so that's Outlaws. That brings us to Phyrexia. All will be one. Let's see. +2/+2 and gains Vigilance, or I Proliferate. No. Don't think I need Argentum Masticore, although with the Eldrazi Titans, especially the original ones, being able to discard them and shuffle them back in means that I would be able to smite just about anything. Still not at its best, though. Commander, where I have too many opponents and discarding a card each turn, is taking a lot of resources away from me to take a little bit of resources away from each of our opponents. One at a time. Probably don't need Blue Sun's Twilight. Loaded Contaminator. French Blight Stalker, no. Bring the Ending. Anchor Bloom, no. Don't need the Canopy. I can play lands from graveyards. Tap, choose target non-land permanent card in my graveyard. If I haven't cast a spell this turn, I may cast that card. If I do, I can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. It's worth considering at least. Alright, first of all, I don't have it as Phyrexia, I have it as just all will be one. Ugh. This is Conduit of Worlds. Green, it's an artifact. Yeah, we probably need to consider it also. We don't have room for all of the I can play an additional land from my graveyard things, but we certainly can run more than one of them, and probably will, so we'll just figure out which ones I actually want. Get all the way through the list. Draw Skull Bomb, Dune Mover, Encroaching Mycosynth, Escaped Experiment, Evolve Spinoderm. For the top 6 cards, you may put 2 lands from among them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you put fewer than 2 lands on the battlefield this way, proliferate a number of times equal to the difference. I don't care about proliferating, so I don't think I want something that can miss on getting me 2 lands for 4 mana, where the fallback position is actually useless. I don't need Goliath Hatchery for anything. Yeah, I don't need that thing. Reveal the top X cards of your library. Choose a creature card and or a land card from among them. Put those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is 5 or more, instead put the chosen cards onto the battlefield or in your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. So, if we cast it for 6, and we hit an Eldrazi that we can't actually cast, we can put it directly into play, or one of the other similar giant creatures I'm planning on running. And if we want to, we can put it in our hand anyway and cast it like next turn or something, so we can get the cast trigger also. It's not terrible. It's a decent enough mana sink too. Oh. Do I actually want Green Sun's Twilight? It's a little bit more mana efficient than Court of Calling would be. For what we're trying to get. And we get an extra land out of it too. The only downside, of course, is that we can't guarantee we will hit the thing that we would most like to hit, where Court of Calling, once we have paid for it, we can just go get it. Alright, 1 second. Okay. Hey. I knew I was going to start hacking up a lung there, so just muted it instead of trying to get through it and move on. I don't know what's bothering my throat right now, but it is extremely aggravated, and I don't think the soda that I have is helping, so I'm not going to drink any more of that, and I didn't bring back my water cup, so clearly mistakes were made. While it's on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of land cards in all graveyards. So the upside to that is that if my lands die, it will have those abilities. The downside is it's an artifact, not a land, so I can't just use it to, like, when I don't have anything better going on, use it as a fetch land. So I'm basically counting on my lands dying and staying dead, and I don't want to lean on that as an option. Search my library for a basic land, sphere, or locust card, reveal and put in my hand. Becomes a 9/9 Phyrexian construct, and loses all abilities and gains indestructible and toxic 9. Activate only if there are 9 or more lands with different names among basics, spheres, and locusts I control. So this is a thing that can tutor for Cloud Post, and also can go grab basic lands after that. I don't think I'm running a bunch of spheres, but I'm definitely running Cloud Post at the very least. So maybe Monument to Perfection. The fact that once we have 9 lands with the counters on them, and or we don't even need 9 lands with the counters on them, we just need the right combination of lands with counters on them, and ones that fulfill its requirements without the counters that have different names. Then we can spend 3 mana and turn this into a 9/9. Indestructible Toxic 9. Which is not the best, since if it gets through the first time and the 9 damage isn't enough to kill them, the 9 poison certainly isn't either, and we don't really proliferate, because I have zero intention of running any cards capable of doing that as it stands right now. Don't need the Custodian, Kinsmith, Lisa Awakened Animus, no. Don't need the Troll. Don't need the Atlas for anything. Plague Nurse, no. Station Steward, Prologue to Phyresis, Phyresis. Prologue to becoming a Phyrexian. Prophetic Prism, Prosthetic Injector, Silver Fisher, Project Imperfection. Put an oil counter on it, remove an oil counter from it, untap target land. So this is a 1-drop that every other turn could untap one of our makes more than, 1 or 2 mana lands in order to ramp us. It's a little bit tempting. The fact that it only costs 1 mana is what kind of does it for me. The downside, of course, is that it can only do it every other turn, so we might not wind up running it because of that. 1 green for a Phyrexian Elf Druid. Elf Druid. It's a 1/2. Yeah. Seachrome Coast, Serum Snare, Sky Scythe Engulfer, Soulless Jailer. Don't need Staff of Completion, I don't think. Proliferate, draw a card, untap it, no. Sword of Forge and Frontier, no. Battle Chair, no. Tablet of Completion. Tainted Observer. Mobilizer, Logbook. Decathol, no. And like I said, I don't think I need any of the spheres, especially with them entering the battlefield tapped. That just seems incredibly unhelpful with what we're already doing. Silex, Sod. Tap add colorless, 1 tap add 1 mana of any color. X tap becomes a copy of target non-token artifact I control with mana value X. So the upside is it could become something like Soul Ring. Making a copy of something like Mana Vault doesn't really help because then I have to pay to untap it. Yeah, we probably don't need Mycosynth Gardens unless I realize I have like 1 really cool artifact I want to be able to copy that I could use extra copies of in the deck. Like, it would be super helpful to have that. I do not need Thirsting Roots, Tanic Growth, Transplant Theorist, Crawler Drake, no. Tyranaxes. Other blue creatures you control have, when this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Phyrexian blue, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types. Yeah, probably don't need him. I don't need the Rot Priest. Brutalizer, no. Viral Spawning, no. And I don't need Zopendrill. Okay. So that's the main all will be 1. Check the commander. Although, there's only green in the 1 deck from the commander thing, but and that's a 3-color deck. Still might be 1 or 2 cards. Literally only 1 or 2 cards, I think, that we would even consider. Oh, right, there's also the ones from the whatchamacallit set that show up in the set boosters. So, choose 1, create a token that's a copy of target artifact creature I control, create a token that's a copy of target non-artifact creature I control, entwine, do both. And the pod lets me exile spells. No. Living Armor, +X+X, where X is the greatest mana value among your commanders. 3/3. Cast an artifact creature spell, it gains Sunburst. That can't run Urtet. Trample, Toxic 1. Creature deal combat damage to one or more players, proliferate. Beginning of your end step, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Retriever dies, exile it. When you do, return up to X target cards from your graveyard to your hand, where X is the number of opponents who have 3 or more poison counters. And the Wormquake and the Glistening Sphere, which this requires poison counters, this requires poison counters. Okay. Yeah, nothing we super care about there. After Phyrexia, we have Planar Chaos, which might have a sliver or two we want, maybe, and like 1 or 2 other creature type matters. Really lucky. We can't run the Anabattle Mage because it pairs up with black also. Aquamorph Entity. No. There's Guys. Body Double. Raids Conjurer Adept. So, Wood Readers. Deadwood Tree Folk, I don't think so. Dichotomancy. Failure. Sliver. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Erratic Mutation. New. Essence Warden. Evolution Charm. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Target creature gains flying. No. Adya Seer. Aether. Behemoth. Anthem. Giant Dust Wasp. Gossamer Phantasm. Groundbreaker. Harmonize. Healing Leaves. Wilds. Jetted Ojanen. Don't think so. No. No. All forests are saprolings, and all saprolings are forests. Yeah, it seems way, way, way too dangerous. Magus of the Bazaar, no. Magus of the Library. Folk Thaumaturgist. Boa. Ovenize, no. Dark creature. Alright, this is Piracy Charm, which is Funeral Charm, but Island Walk. Blue. Don't need Pongify. Pouncing Worm. Primal Plasma. Remove 3 Spore counters. Create a 1/1. So this guy is green and 2. And can spend 1 to sacrifice a Saproling to draw a card. And occasionally makes his own Saprolings. Reflex Sliver doesn't help because I have to attack to put the counter on them most of the time. So turning my thing into a Sliver will give it haste after I've already attacked. So not what I'm looking for. I'm trying to think if Psychotrope Thallid is better than Wall of Mulch. It might be, so like it's a little bit more mana to cast, but it also makes its own bodies to feed itself over time. Very, very slowly, though, is the biggest issue. So the initial investment in it doesn't pay off very good dividends. Psychotrope. ESYCHO. PROP. Okay, as long as I spelled it the way it's spelled. Valid. This is 2 and a green for a fungus 1/1. Yeah, it costs more mana to initially cast. It's a 1/1 instead of an 0/4. And so it's not getting into combat very well. And its biggest thing is that every 3 turn cycles, I get to make an extra 1/1 that I can sack to draw a card. No, fungus. I don't even know what a gungus is. Although I'm pretty sure Jar Jar Binks is probably one. Sounds like a portmanteau. Seal of Primordium, no. Riptide Pilferer. Excuse me. Serendib Sorcerer. Shaper Parasite, no. Spell Shift. Tidewalker, no. Timbermare, no. Timebender, no. Drake, Bow. And Glimmer, no. Wild Pear, and Wistful Thinking. Was there not a blue? Oh, there it is. I passed it. It was Synchronous Sliver. I passed over the 5 mana 3/3. I don't know why. Alright, so that was all of the cards in Planar Chaos, and we're at 50 minutes, and also, it's like I'm having a bad allergy attack right now, so I'm just going to call it there before I hack up a lung, so we'll call it there for right now. I'll get some water, take a bit of a break. My brother is working today, so I do have to make sure I leave enough time to go get him and get him to work and whatnot, and we'll see if there's a Friday Night Magic tonight, but if there's not, I'll probably be on either drafting, playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or one then the other. But yeah, that's going to do it for me for right now, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.